Today in the United States and in the Americas, we celebrate, or they celebrate, Columbus Day. Is the European discovery of the New World. In Portugal, we don't care, but we do have a theory about Columbus that he may have been Portuguese. There's instead of Venetian, or even the Catalans claim him to be a native or a local of Catalonia. But that's another thing that isn't really important. What's important is today I'm going to talk about American stone tools, specifically a unique stone tool set called the Clovis points. I'm going to share, and by the way, hello everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. This is my first program since I came back from London, which I enjoyed. I made a little live stream on the Saturday. It was on the Saturday, was on the Friday, one of those days. And YouTube doesn't allow. I didn't monetize it at the end, but I just said, let's see if I can monetize it after. Nope, the YouTube does not allow you to monetize it afterwards. They keep getting these server problems, like sure. But anyway, let's get on with our article. It's an article from Science Daily. Excuse me. And they're talking about a unique tool production method that the Clovis hunters, the first people that colonized the Americas, seem to have invented. The archaeologists explain innovations of fluting ancient stone weaponry. Now, fluting is taking two chips chips off the stone tool to make what is basically a groove type thing. When it's done on both sides of the artifact, or the edge, the blade, the weapon, the tool. And the summary says from Kent University, April the 4th this year. I won't read this introduction because it's basically just repeating of what the actual article is. Now, these are the tools that I'm talking about. This is a Clovis stone tools. These are replicas, in fact. The original ones are somewhere in the museum somewhere. I don't know, it doesn't say where, but it doesn't matter. They are quite flat and quite elongated, very exquisitely made by facial napping. That means they nap them. They remove flakes from both sides to make it as much of an asymmetric blade as possible. And some are spear points, some are arrow points. The small ones are arrow points. And this article tries to explain how and why they did that. And we shall read then. Approximately 13,500 years ago, very approximately, after the nomadic Clovis hunters crossed the frozen land bridge from Asia to North America, Beringia, it's from Alaska to Siberia. That's where Beringia is, that land mass that they are talking about, which is now underwater, by the way. It's not very deep, about 100 meters, 80 to 100 meters deep, mainly. So it's not a very deep waterway. And it divides Asia from the Americas, which everybody knows. Researchers are still asking questions and putting together clues as to how they not only survived in the new landscape with unique new challenges, but adapted with stone tools and weaponry to thrive for thousands of years. Okie dokie. Kent State University's Metin Erin, PhD, Director of Archaeology and Assistant Professor in the Department of Anthropology in the College of Science and Arts and Sciences, and his colleagues are not only asking these questions, good for them, they should, that's what you do, but testing their unique new theories. Again, exactly, you make hypotheses and you test them to get the theories done later on. So yes, good point. That's what you do. That's what you should do, by the way. They want to better understand the engineering techniques and purposes of Clovis weapon technology. Specifically, they study stone projectile points, such as arrowheads and spear points, made by flint knapping. Removing it, flint knapping, those who don't know, is removing the small flakes from the tool you're making to get them to the shape you want. An ancient practice of chipping away at the edge of rocks, not rocks, it's the material that they use to shape them into weapons and tools. This very simplistic article, Jesus, God damn it. In their most recent article published online in the Journal of Archaeological Science, I have the link in the description. Well, at least I have this in ScienceDirect.com. I think it's the link to this study, published article, with the co-authors from Southern Methodist University, Brede Story, he's an engineer, David Meltzer, Caitlin Thomas, University of Tulsa, et al., etc., etc. I'm not going to read them all. There's a whole bunch of people from various universities. They explain the flint knapping technique of fluting the Clovis points. So just get back to the picture. If you can see this groove here, and this one here is, I think, in the grey, the grey blade, arrow point and spear point is more prominent. Even in the smaller ones here, you can see them. That's what the fluting is, and they can explain what it does, which could be considered the first truly American invention. Now, let's get into a little bit of context. It took literally thousands of years for the Amerindians, the American natives that they call the people that colonized the Americas, to travel from the eastern Siberia, where Vladivostok more or less is, to what is now Alaska. That's how long the land bridge lasted, a few thousand years. And it was a rich area. We know because they've taken studies from core samples from the area, from the Bering Strait, Bering Sea, which is below the Bering Sea, the surface below the Bering Sea. And they found that it was a very fertile place. There must have been huge amount of herds. So it would have taken them enough time to both adapt to the possible new environment, because that area was ice-free because of the warming effect of the current that flowed into that area, or then it turned around, sort of like the Gulf Stream warms up Europe. There is a stream that warms up that area to an extent. It would have been more prominent because it would have curved downwards. I think it came out of my head. I don't know if the stream goes west or it goes east, from Asia to America or America to Asia. I'm not sure, but it was ice free, that area anyway. So a lot of the main animals were the big megafauna, mastodons, giant deer, woolly buffalo, bison, or buffalo, bison, and other fauna that have since become extinct. So they would have had enough time to adapt and to learn new techniques. And that's why the singular technological attribute, the flake removal or flute, is absent from stone tool repertoire in Pleistocene Northeast Asia, where the Clovis ancestors came from. Of course, they would have probably learned them in Beringia, that land bridge area. That's just a possibility. That is a hypothesis. That is asking questions, and then I would need to test them out. If they happen to do a drill core and they pick up one of those Clovis points in the core, it's proven. I learned them there because they are not in Asia, but they are in Beringia, and they are in the New World. Easy. Archaeologists have debated for years as to why the Clovis added this flute feature to their points. Basically, it is a thin groove chipped off the base of both sides, perhaps first made by accident. Yep, I could accept that. Most advances in technology are accidents. Most, not all, but most, yeah. Where am I? Which logically makes it very thin and brittle. Yes, it does. Especially flint. Flint can be, the thinner it is, it's more brittle. That's why you have to renap the edges to make them sharp again, because they chip. And if you hit it badly, it just shatters. Perhaps first made by accident with logic. However, after several types of testing, the researchers have reported that this thinning of the base can make it better able to withstand and absorb the shock of colliding with a hard object such as the bone of the mastodon or bison. Possibly, yes. Because it's you have the thin area surrounded by slightly thicker areas, it could I'm not an engineer. I am just hypothesizing what could happen from other materials that could exhibit the same type of characteristics and behaviors when they strike. I'd give it an analogy of sword making technique, where they put in a softer core surrounded by a much harder steel to get the blades sharpened. Because if you have a completely high carbon steel blade, it shatters, while a low carbon steel core will flex and won't allow the blade, steel blade, iron blade, to shatter. And this could be the same type of technique and characteristics of that production, that technological attribute, as they say. Now, archaeologists have debated for years as to why the Clovis added this flute. Which are the points? Basically, it is. I'm repeating myself. Sorry about that, guys. The flute point turns out to be an invention that allows these colonizers to travel great distances with some confidence that their weaponry could hold up at least long enough until they could find the next rock quarry to make some points. Okay, they're assuming that they didn't take prepared cores, a couple of prepared cores, which when you prepare a core to make a stone tools, blades, etc. You prepare a core where you can then easily nap off the blank of a blade, for example. Then you can work it into other to the blade type you want. A burin, which is a scraping type thing, which is a boring type thing, scraper, and an owl, which is used to scrape wood, cut stuff like that. There are a lot of different types of blades for different types of uses. So they're assuming that they didn't take a prepared core. You wouldn't have need many, just one 2 or 3 kilogram core would produce enough blades to last them a long time. So that is most what could have happened, but it still doesn't rule out, doesn't dismiss the idea that this technique made for the tools to last longer, because I'll continue to reading. It's risky, and you couldn't have been easier to learn how to do this effectively. The technique Aaron explains. Archaeological evidence suggests that up to 1 out of 5 points break when you try to chip this fluted base. That is modern experimental archaeology. I'm pretty sure that the Clovis hunters could be more efficient in not breaking their tools. So instead of 1 in 5, they may have broken 1 in 20. Who knows? But I'm sure that they grew up napping this. experimental archaeology to try to replicate these techniques. They learned that later. They were learning, the Clovis hunters were learning these techniques while growing up from toddlers. So and it takes at least 30 minutes to produce a finished specimen. That would be from the probably an unprepared core. Would take less time, and again, this is modern minutes that they assume takes what a modern experimental archaeologist would take. I'm pretty sure that the Clovis hunters would take slightly less time because they already prepared the core. Once you just have to hit it once, and a blade comes out almost automatically, more or less. Then you shape it. That would take a little bit longer, but maybe 5 minutes less instead of 25 minutes to produce a finished specimen. I'm guessing. I don't know, but I'm guessing. They're just out of the possible, all the experience that they had in producing the tools that they used. So, though it was a time-consuming process, and a risky technique, absolutely yes. All flint snapping is risky. You just have to hit it the slightest wrong way, or a little bit extra hard, hitting it too hard, just a little bit, and it'll shatter. So yes, that's true. So it was risky. The successfully fluted Clovis points could have been extremely reliable, especially while traveling great distances into unknown regions on a new continent. They needed points that would hold up and be used over and over again. This article does not say if they found retouched blades, though. That is evidence that they were using. They were sorry about that. I need a drink. My tongue's not my mouth's not saying what I want to say. 1 second. That the stone tools were lasting and holding up over some time. That's it. Thank you. Okay. In the article, the researchers compared standardized computer models of fluted and unfluted points, okay, as well as experimental real-world test specimens. So they got some an experimental archaeologist that expert in flint knapping, and made the tools for them, and then they tested it out, and found that the fluted point base does in fact act as a shock absorber. Like I tried to, I think I guessed my explanation as to why, my analogy with a steel blade, a sword blade. Anyway, it increased points robustness because the points could be thicker, slightly thicker, as you can see again from the pictures. They were not like the European. By this time, the European Paleolithic, they would have been using micro blades, especially in the Solutrean onward, 23,000 years to the Neolithic, more or less. So they wouldn't have been using these bigger, longer blades, but these blades were specifically points. Specifically to hunt mega fauna. And they were thin enough to basically get in between the ribs. Well, the shape's the same, John, to be used. You know what a flute is. You can almost see it. A flute glass. If you turn the blade upside down, at the point where the stem of the glass is. You see what I mean? So let's get back to the article. In other words, upon impact, the brittle base of the spearhead crumples and absorbs more energy, which prevents fatal breaks everywhere on the point so it could be reused. Yes, like I said, it's a slightly shock absorber. It doesn't form probably the crystalline structure doesn't once it's thinner doesn't allow it to shatter more readily. I don't know. I'm not a materials expert, so a materials engineer, so I don't know. But they conclude it's amazing to think that people 12,000 years ago were flaking shock absorbers and engineering stone tools in a way that it took 21st century modern engineers to figure out, Aaron said. Bit of a condescending ending to that, but I'll overlook it. As engineers, we don't typically get to work with archaeologists, but this project has allowed us the exciting opportunity to provide additional tools from engineering mechanics and explore how fluting affects the behavior of Clovis points, Story says. And that basically ends the article. It ends in a sort of a downy type way because human ingenuity has always figured out how to solve problems that they encounter in their everyday survival, be it from the fluting of the blade to in Europe there is evidence that flint was heated, especially in the Solutrean, like I said, the Solutrean, which is my field, my real area of expertise, about the end of the Neanderthal race and the domination of Homo sapiens sapiens, and the tools that they produced. And there is evidence that they produced that in that time they heated up flint, which altered the characteristics, which allowed them to make really, really thin and long olive leaf blades. I'll try and find one. Stupid. God, solution. I found one. I'll just share it so you guys can see. These are the types of blades I'm showing you guys. This, as you can see, it is, look how big it is. This was also used to hunt mammoths. Comparing to the fluted blades from the Clovis points. Let's see, Solutrean. Come on, this one. That's one. The Solutrean leaf, laurel leaf style blades were heated. That the flint was heated, and then we know it's heated because the surface is almost looks translucent and oily. These blades were very, very thin. If you hold them up to the light, you can almost see that they're translucent in some other points. Here's another one. They're what? It's about 15 centimeters long, or 12 centimeters long. So you can see that the techniques. Here's some other blades. These are projectile points, but these are earlier ones. These are possibly Aurignacian or Magdalenian. So, so yes, we can see that humans have always figured out ways to maximize their hunting technique. So yeah, now let's see the chat. There, as I finished the article on a high note, I think on a high note of the of the Solutrean points. I love the Solutrean period. Solutrean culture comes from Solutre, Les Solutres. It's a cave in southern France, as most of them are. So, yes, John W. Muse, if you heat the flint, it does make them very almost. Yeah, it's glass-like. It's the surface feels or looks oily. So yes, that's what they do. Hello, Archaeology, and hello, John, of course. Malafis. Who else is there? Who else is here? My all good people. Of course, I think. Have you ever tried to craft your own Neanderthal weapons? I just need to get. I know, but I need to get flint, and I think I could master it. 20 kilograms of nodules, of flint nodules. I think I could produce a decent flake, a decent blade. So yes, and then not just Neanderthal, Homo sapiens, modern humans. Let's call us to differentiate Neanderthals with modern humans, Cro-Magnon. That is us, modern humans. So yeah, I would love to, of course. I just don't have the material. I can't. I live in a granitic area, and even the quartzite that we have here is just not right. But it's too brittle. But you can also craft tools and blades out of quartzite, obsidian, natural glass, of course, flint. There's other materials which other types of rocks which produce really good blades. But if you want to go back to the Masturian and Acheulean periods, pebbles could do it. An Acheulean hand axe was made by could make them out of most stones, because they weren't the blade the edge didn't need to be so sharp, as they were basically cracking open and just roughly cutting tools, cutting of flesh tools. That's what I mean. So I think can wrap it up. Thank you guys for coming on, and I'm preparing new stuff over over this month, till I finally settle on a formula for November, so I can get November rolling, because I need to grow. I've lost subscribers. I don't care really, but must have been, it's because of could be because of the stupid algorithm, or because I went to London, which I loved, by the way. I talked about it, so yeah. Okay, guys, catch you guys around, and see you on my next broadcast. Bye bye.